Hey guys, I'm back again to continue on this series I started on. Started speaking on the subject of hearing God. Last time I spoke about metaphors, that God sometimes speaks in metaphors or parables or riddles or types. And today I want to focus more on the awareness. And I'm going to be speaking on one boy who was called Samuel. The story of Samuel starts, his mother was barren and wanted a child, and she kept crying to God to give her a son, to give her a child. And he promised that if God gives her a child, she's going to give him to the Lord all his life to serve him. And finally God hears a prayer and gives her a child, gives her a son. And after 1 year of nursing him, she brought him to the temple so that he would grow up in God's house. And he was looked after by the priest called Eli. And Eli was already old. And this boy now grows up, he grows up in the house of God. And he used to sleep right there, where they kept the Ark of the Covenant, the Ark of God. And he used to sleep there on the floor. And one day, God called him. He hears someone calling him. And it was God. But he didn't know it was God calling him. He assumed it was Eli, the priest, calling him. And someone answered, came to him, and he said, "Here I am." He ran to him and he said, "Here I am, you called me." But Eli said, "I didn't call you, go back, lay down." And he went and lay down again. But yet again the Lord called him, "Samuel." And he got up, he went to Eli and said, "Here I am, you called me." And Eli said, "My son, I didn't call you, go back and lay down." Now Samuel did not know yet the Lord. Imagine, he didn't know God can speak to people like that. He didn't know God yet. So it's possible to grow up in the house of God and not know God. You can know about God and not know God. It says the word of the Lord had not yet been revealed to him. At that time, the Lord called Samuel. And Samuel got up and he went to Eli again and he said, "Here I am, you called me." But then, because Eli is a priest, I find this interesting because he's a priest, but he didn't have the word of God didn't come to him. But here, he realizes that it's the Lord who's calling the boy. So Eli explains to Samuel, "Go and lie down, and if he calls you, say, 'Speak, Lord, for your servant is listening.'" So Samuel went and lay down in his place. This is very interesting to me as well because you see, Eli is like a father to Samuel. And when God speaks to him, it's like hearing his father's voice. Does it make sense? It's like hearing his father's voice. He thinks it's Eli speaking to him, but it's God. So God speaks to us as a father. And the Lord came and stood there calling as at the other time, "Samuel, Samuel." Then Samuel said, "Speak, for your servant is listening." And the Lord said to Samuel, "See, I'm about to do something in Israel that will make the ears of everyone who hears about it tingle." And he also spoke judgments, things to tell Eli. Which is very interesting because here now this little boy has to go to this priest who's raised him and tell him what God is saying. And yet he is a priest and he's just a little boy. To show you sometimes when you're young is the best time to start seeking God. He's always grown up in the house of God. And when you're young, your spirit is still pure and innocent, alert to hear from God. It's still tender. And he says how the Lord was with Samuel as he grew up. And God let none of his words fall to the ground. This is so incredible. That means none of the things he spoke failed to happen. Everything he said came to pass. This is how it is when one is walking with God so closely. As you continue to read more about Samuel, it's so amazing. Like, he could tell everything that's on people's hearts. He could tell somebody what is going to happen to them tomorrow, and he could see details about people's lives. I know today people who walk with God in this capacity and can reveal details or personal details of people's lives and secrets on people's hearts. And many people have questioned whether this is really possible, but here it is in the Bible. I hope you're blessed, and I hope you're inspired to seek for God's face, because there's this thing I see that, because he was always in God's house. David as well. David was the same. Last time I spoke about David had the same heart. He was a man after God's heart. And one of the Psalms he wrote, he said, "One thing I ask of the Lord, this is what I seek. May I dwell in the house of the Lord, to seek him in his temple, to gaze upon his beauty." He just loved God's presence and seeking God's face and hearing from God. He was always writing songs for God. And like I said last time, when you draw close to God, he draws close to you. And it may take you a while before you can clearly understand when God is speaking to you, but it starts there, that desire for the things of God. And God looks at that attitude of heart. There were once twins, these twins, Jacob and Esau. And Esau was the first to be born. So Esau was in line to receive the blessing of God because he was the firstborn. But Jacob so much desired this blessing, so much when they were growing up, he tricked his brother into giving him his birthright. Because one day the brother was hungry, and he said to him, "I'm making stew. If you're that hungry, I can give you my stew and you give me your birthright." And at that moment, Esau didn't think too much about the value of this birthright. He's like, "What is this gonna help me? This birthright help me. I'm hungry now. Give me this stew." And he traded his birthright for that bowl of stew. And later on, when the time came for the father to pass the blessing to the firstborn, because he was old and he thought he was about to die, and he called his eldest son. But Jacob, with the help of his mother, they conspired to cheat the brother out of his blessing, and Jacob went to the father pretending to be Esau, because the father was now old and blind. And he succeeded, and the father blessed him, and Jacob will become Israel. That birthed the whole nation of Israel, to show you that blessing was really upon his life. And from that family of Israel, where the Messiah would come. But God respected and loved Jacob because he had respect towards him. He desired so much that blessing, even though he wasn't in line to receive that blessing, and Esau thought lightly of it. So when you honor God, he honors you. But if you treat it lightly, God will also treat you lightly. When you draw close to God, he draws close to you. If you resist the devil, he will flee from you. I hope you're encouraged and blessed. Thank you.